Do you think you're an empath? It could be hard to tell the difference between being an empath and being a super sympathetic person, but maybe not quite an empath. Today I want to talk about some qualities that empaths have, what an empath really is, how you become an empath, and give you some tips and tricks on how to navigate life as an empath. So an empath is somebody who is super hypersensitive to not only emotions and energies, but their surroundings. When they're having a conversation with someone, they're paying more attention at a subconscious level to not just the words that the person's saying, but the energies that they're picking up on. They're noticing body language, they are noticing slight changes in tones, they're noticing the room around them, they're noticing everything at all times, which can be very exhausting. A lot of the times when you become an empath, this starts in childhood. In fact, pretty much all the time. Empaths are also people pleasers, and this stems from childhood as well. So a lot of times as children, when you grow up in a chaotic home or an emotionally unstable home, you learn to really pay close attention to things like maybe your parents' footsteps or the change in tone in your mother's voice when she's mad, things like this, and it only gets more and more specific in every situation, and you don't always realize you're doing it. Maybe in the beginning as a kid you did, but over time these things come very naturally to empaths. You're learning to tune into your surroundings and your environment, and the key here is, you're learning and finding and searching for what you need to do in order to feel safe, what you need to be aware of, what changes are taking place, what dangers are there to your emotional state, your physical state, to all of these things. So empaths are really hyper aware to everything that's going on around them all the times, and like I said, this can be extremely exhausting. So empaths, beginning in childhood and carrying on through adulthood, we all have an energetic field. An empath, their energetic field, they involve everything in it. So everything is in their energetic field. So instead of just worrying about their self and their own energy, they kind of take on the responsibility of everything else and everyone else around them. So, their parents' energies and struggles and everything going on with their parents becomes their problem. The household's problems become their problem. When they grow up, their coworkers' problems become their problems. And there's the emotions attached to each of those things. Empaths are terrified of conflict. Starting from being a child and growing up, conflict is something. Empaths want everyone to be happy. Empaths are people pleasers. Very hardcore people pleasers. They want to make everyone happy, which tends to get you used, manipulated, walked all over. You're a pushover, but you are a people pleaser. And so conflict is like the most terrifying thing, and you try to avoid it at all costs as an empath. You just want to keep the peace. You want to keep people from being upset. You feel guilt in situations that you don't need to feel guilty, and standing up for yourself, you would feel guilt for that. Saying that you disagree with something, you would feel guilt for that. These are things that an empath, I'm not saying that they're wrong for it, but you don't need to feel these things. And an empath is overly sympathetic, really attaches themselves too hard to the other person's emotions. You put your own emotions on the back burner and worry about everyone else's apart from your own. Our feeling of being safe is where this all stems from, and that stems from our root chakra. So when your root chakra is not aligned and you don't feel safe, you kind of tune to like your third eye, where you're really looking at everything. You're really focused on everything else around you. You're hyper focused on everyone else, everything else. What do you need to do to feel safe? Who do you need to make happy in order so that they don't hurt you? All of these things are the focus of an empath. So as an adult, empaths tend to, when you do identify as an empath, a lot of the times people look at it as a superpower, which yes, it can be, but a lot of people use that as either an excuse to not heal these core wounds, or an excuse for, oh, well, I'm an empath, so that's why, I feel this way, or that's why they're doing this to me, or that's why I, take on this emotion, all these extra things. It can be used as an excuse for so many things if you're not aware of, the harmful effects of being an empath, because it can be really dangerous. It can be detrimental to your mental health. It can be exhausting. It can be a really hard thing to navigate if you're not aware of healthy boundaries, and if you're not aware of how to navigate, especially people like narcissists, which empaths and narcissists are like magnets to each other, and I'll make a separate video on that, but it's very hard to navigate if you don't educate yourself. And unfortunately, most people do learn that through experience. I know I learned that through experience. So the most important thing to do if you think you're an empath is to identify whether or not you are, and then harness that energy. Don't sit and say, oh, well, I'm an empath, so that's what it is. Harness the energy, learn how to work with it. Don't use it as an excuse. Don't get egotistical with it. Don't say, oh, well, it's my superpower. Like, yes, it can be, but also don't let it go to your head and become kind of obnoxious with it, where to the point where you're ignoring, you know, the true essence of being an empath, where you are able to connect with people at a deep core level. Because if you become egotistical about it, that kind of evades the whole point of it, right? So becoming aware but remaining grounded. Your first 3 chakras are how you stay, you know, you need those to stay grounded, to feel safe and to be secure in being an empath. So like I said, being an empath usually almost always starts in childhood. That is, you know, obviously as a kid you don't know you're an empath, but that is where it begins. Some people are probably born as empaths, but I know it's very, very common to go through situations as a child that induced being an empath. So let's talk about some ways that maybe have tipped you off to you thinking you are an empath. So number 1, if someone's tone is off, even just a little bit, you can pick up that something's wrong. Even if they're saying like, oh no, I'm fine, I promise I'm okay. But like, you can pick up, you know, that something's wrong. Obviously there's serious situations where you can really tell that something's wrong with someone, or that they're really not okay, or they're really upset. But I'm talking on like a habitual basis, that when somebody says that they're okay, that they're not, or that you're picking up on tone changes, or that you're picking up on energy changes. Like, if you're able to sense these things on like a normal basis, everyday type of thing with different people, and not just the same person that you got to know really well, but like different people, odds are you probably are an empath, because that is not something that comes naturally to the average person. As a kid, maybe people called you oversensitive. This is something that is pretty common in children, and it can be as adults too. Kids especially who are empaths are really in tune to emotions, because emotions are so much stronger and deeper when you're an empath. You feel things so much deeper than the average person does. And so because of that, you can look overly emotional to people. You can look overly sensitive to people who aren't on that same energetic level, or as who aren't empaths, who don't understand, who don't feel things as deeply as you feel them. And it can be a gift and a curse to feel things so deeply, right? I mean, there's a beautiful side to it, and there's a tragic side to it. So being labeled as overly sensitive or overly emotional can definitely be a sign of being an empath. If you've ever felt like something's wrong with you because you are super emotional, or you feel like, you know, you have mood swings, which I'll touch on this in a second, but like if you feel you're very up and down, especially when you're around people, odds are you're picking up on other people's emotions, and that can make you, if you don't know what's going on, that can definitely make you feel like there's something wrong with you. Like, why am I all over the place? What is going on with me? That can definitely be a sign of being an empath as well. If you are in your group of friends, or even just to a couple friends or whoever, if you've ever been told that you give really good advice, if you're the friend that your friends go to for advice, if you are the one that people talk to, if you're kind of like the therapist of your friends, this is a sign of an empath. People unintentionally are drawn to empaths and want to talk to them, want to open up to them. It's not an intentional thing, but the energy you give off, and like the empathetic, I'm here for you, I resonate with you, I can connect with you, that you give off, that energy, people are really drawn to that, and people really feel close and connected to you, and feel safe with you, and feel trusting to you when they can pick up on that energy. So it's probably a reoccurring thing that people like to vent to you, like to talk to you, like to come to you for advice. So that is a clear indicator that you are probably an empath. If you have trouble in social settings, this can be really overwhelming for empaths. I know I personally went to an event maybe 2 months ago, and I've really been in touch with this side of myself in the past few years. Now that I've recognized what it is, and like I know that this is what it is, I know that I'm an empath, and I've accepted it and identified with it. And so I went to this event like 2 months ago, and the event that I went to was a lot of high energy people. There was a lot of like psychic mediums there. There was a lot of like tarot readers. There was a lot of like it was that type of event, right? Which I had to remove myself from it for a little bit and come back in with a different mentality. I had to kind of put a little bit of a guard up in order to go back into the event, knowing that, you know, I had to protect my energy a little bit. So with that, the social settings can be really difficult, absorbing all of those different energies, feeling so many different energies, and emotions from different people. Energy, everybody has their own energetic field. So when you're an empath, you're really, really tapped in. You can really tune to different people's energies. It can be very hard and overwhelming and physically hard to be around so many at one time as an empath. Another sign of being an empath is you empathize with everybody. I'm talking like anybody. You could be going down the street and see, maybe somebody's going for a run and it's really hot out. You could just like feel their misery. Or you could be going out to eat and like it's really busy in that restaurant. You could just feel the stress of the cooks and how hot they must be and how stressed they must be. I work in service, so maybe that's like a really specific example. Anyways, you can empathize with like anybody. If you often say things like, oh, I feel so bad for them, that's a really good indicator of being an empath. The biggest indicator that I would say, the easiest way to tell if you're an empath is when you're looking at someone else's situation. If someone else is venting to you about something, when you're imagining and picturing whatever they're saying, are you looking at it as them going through it, or are you looking at it as yourself experiencing it? That is the biggest indicator to me, because when somebody is telling me a story of something that they're going through or something they're experiencing, whether it's good or bad, it really doesn't matter. I picture it from my perspective. I am on the inside looking out. If you're on the inside looking out of somebody else's situation, odds are you're an empath. Versus, normal people can be extremely, extremely, extremely sympathetic, but they're on the outside looking in. They're not feeling what the experience actually felt like. Versus an empath actually feels the pain, feels the emotions, feels the stress, feels whatever that person was feeling. They can really, really tap in and feel that. So to me, that is the most clear indicator as far as being an empath. Empaths listen with their entire body. So they don't just, listen to somebody's words, and they don't just read facial expressions. They listen with their whole body. They are picking up on what they're feeling. They are feeling the energy. They are feeling the emotion. So like if you're out somewhere with like a group of friends and you have a sudden change in your emotion, like out of nowhere, odds are that's not your emotion. That you're picking up on someone else's, it's not yours. It might be hard to pick up whose emotion you're picking up, because obviously nobody always is like, oh, well, I'm feeling sad now. But if you feel a sudden wave of emotion, that is a clear indicator that you are an empath and you're picking up on someone else's emotions at that time. Empaths are very sensitive, and that's not always a bad thing. Empaths tend to have very deep, connected relationships with people. Empaths connect at a deep level, because they're able to see you at a deeper level than the average person. They're able to really feel and connect with you at a very deep level. But they also empaths want to show you that they know you. They want to show you that they get you. They want to show you that they understand, okay? They might have a lot of friends, but they have a very close group of core people that they keep in their life that they know at a very close level. Empaths also find deep meaning in everything. So not just these deep emotional conversations, but in everything. If somebody gives you a certain look, a lot of people might just brush it off or not even acknowledge it or notice it, but an empath, that's going to be very meaningful. They're going to pick up on that and they're going to be like, oh, there's something wrong. They're feeling uncomfortable, or they're anxious, or they want to tell me something, or they have something, whatever. An empath is going to pick up on everything. Everything has meaning to an empath. Every conversation, every look, everything has deep meaning. Empaths are also extremely drained by negative people. I do have a video that I just put up on how to protect yourself from negative people's energies. It can be very difficult. It can be very challenging, especially if you're an empath. It can be very challenging. What you'll notice is empaths, if you are an empath, you'll feel very tired, very drained, very exhausted, maybe irritable, maybe angry, crabby, depressed after interacting with somebody who has this negative energy. Those are not the people to keep in your life. And it might seem obvious, but it's sometimes, we have a hard time cutting these people off. You want to keep people who are uplifting and happy and supportive in your life, especially as an empath, because you really need that good energy supply, not the people who drain your energy. Empaths also tend to have a problem with overgiving, overspending, oversharing. All of these things can cause problems, very obviously so. They don't know when to stop. They don't know when to stop giving their time, giving their money, giving their things, giving everything that they have for something. Empaths just don't know when to quit. They just want to give and give and give. overspending. You know, they could be broke, but like they could see a donation that makes them really, really sympathize and empathize with whatever that donation is, and so they keep giving. Or like somebody really keeps bugging them to borrow gas money or borrow money for this or borrow money for this, and they'll keep giving because they feel bad for them, because they can feel what it's like to not have gas money, you know what I mean? So empaths tend to overgive. And same with oversharing. Like, you know, not everybody wants to know every single thing about you, and empaths like to know everything about people, and they like to have these deep conversations and, you know, right off the bat connect at a deep level. Not everybody does, and so sometimes empaths have a hard time differentiating like how far is too far to go when you're sharing. So a few tips and tricks for empaths that are going to be really, really important for you. Number one, make sure that you set aside alone time. And I do mean alone time, not just when you take a shower, not just when you go to sleep. Especially as a mom or a dad, a parent, you might have a hard time finding that alone time, but it is so crucial. When you're absorbing energy all day, every day, no matter what, it can be exhausting. And if you don't set that time aside for yourself, if you don't set aside time to recoup and just be with yourself alone and not have these other energies, like you will go crazy. You will be exhausted. You will be burnt out. You will start snapping and get irritable and it will just cause all kinds of problems for you. The healthiest thing to do is just create time for yourself. Schedule it into your calendar. Make sure that you really prioritize your alone time. Even if it's 20 minutes a day, find time for yourself. I know that I started getting up earlier in my day, and that morning time for me is my alone time, and I don't mess with that. That is my time. I get up at between like 5:30 most days, and like everyone else in my house gets up around 6:30. That morning time, that's my time. That's my block of time to do all of the things that I need to do. My yoga, my meditations, my whatever I need to do that brings me peace, happiness, joy, all of these things. That's my alone time, and we don't mess with that. So make sure you're finding your alone time and really, really, really being firm on that and creating a boundary around it and making sure that that is not something you're willing to give up. This one can be a little bit challenging, but make sure you begin, I say begin because this is not something that you can just do like that. Begin sorting out your emotions from the emotions you're picking up from others. So sometimes it's helpful in your mind to create a little box, and so when you're interacting with somebody, to like put those emotions in that box. That's not your box. You're holding it, you're holding the space for them, which is amazing and very, very helpful, and they're gonna be so grateful for that. Hold the space for them, hold the box of emotions for them, but then when you're done with that conversation, you need to get rid of that box. That is not yours to hold on to, that is not yours to keep. Do not absorb that into your system. That is not your box. Make sure that you are keeping your emotions separated from everyone else's. Don't dim yourself to save the feelings of others. A lot of empaths, kind of tone their voice back because they don't want to hurt other people's feelings. They don't want to share their opinion. They don't want to share their advice. They don't want to share who they really are. They don't want to stand up for themselves because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. And to that I say, do not do that. You are who you are. You are on this planet. You deserve to have the things you want. If other people can sit here and say their unsolicited advice and unsolicited, whatever, you can at least stand up for yourself. If somebody's speaking to you a way that you do not accept, if somebody is asking your opinion and they might not like your answer, if, whatever it may be, don't dim your light to tiptoe around everyone else who will not do the same for you anyways. Speak your truth, speak your mind. Obviously, don't be rude and disrespectful to people. That's never a good thing. But don't dim your light to make these other people happy. This is your life. You deserve to be yourself. You deserve to be loved and respected. And if the people who you're speaking to get offended or don't want to talk to you anymore or this and that, they don't need to be in your life. That's just making room for better people to come in. If somebody gets offended by something that you say and is so offended that they're not going to be in your life anymore, is that really somebody that you need in your life? I don't think so. Empaths make great teachers, coaches, mentors, trainers. This is because when we connect with people, we can see energies and feelings and emotions in them that they might not be recognizing for themselves. So when they see part of their situation and we can come at them from another angle with what we're able to pick up on for them, we can meet in the middle and get really great results for them. And we can really help guide them in the right direction. By being an empath, you can really understand where they're coming from. You can really feel it. And it's really cool because as an empath, you can feel people's emotions. So when you start to see them as you're guiding them, you start to see them making these connections and making progress and moving along in life. It feels amazing to see people doing these things. It feels amazing to see, them working through certain problems and knowing that you were able to help them get themselves the answers. It's a great, fulfilling thing. So if you are an empath and you don't already have a career or you're in a field that you don't love, I highly suggest checking some of those careers out. The last 10 years I worked at the same place, and altogether I've been in the service industry for like 15 years, and I have recently gone into coaching, and I'm not full-time yet, but I'm about to be, and I love it. I feel so fulfilled and it makes me so happy, and I think it's just the most loving, fulfilling career in the whole world, and you get to see so much change in people, and you get to help people get their own change and make their own progress and make their own aha moments, and it's just like the coolest, most fulfilling thing in the whole world. So if you are an empath, I highly suggest it. It is a great career field. Obviously there are a million different great career fields for empaths. This is just kind of like my corner of the world for it. So with that, I hope that you were able to gain something from this video today. I hope you got some clarity on empaths. I hope that you learned a little bit of something. If you did, let me know down below. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye!